that song?
Right? I love that movie.
So good. So good. Oh, but I digress. Hello, HUAWLA Koalas. Veronica here at the Beechwood Studios. So we have a very special show for you guys today. But before we get into all that, I want to give a couple of shout outs to some people who wrote reviews, because when you write a review, you get a shout out. So this one goes out to Macy G. She said, I just found this podcast and I'm already liking their vibe. Oh, well, we like your vibe too, Macy.
Thank you, Macy.
The next one goes to David L., who says, thank you for this podcast. The information you guys provide is timeless. Well, I mean, we are Time Lords, so, yes. And black don't crack and brown don't
frown, baby.
There it is. Yeah. I've heard Asian like don't Asian.
I thought it was Asian don't raisin.
I've heard both versions, but
I don't know. That's what Roger says.
But yeah, so thank you, Macy and David, for your shout outs. You guys are amazing.
Thank you.
So to get back to our special show, Jorge went someplace very far out and mysterious and intrisical. Intrisical.
Wait, is that a word? Intrisical?
I just made it up. It's on Wikipedia now. Just wait, give me a second. Okay, now it's on Wikipedia.
You're copywriting that. She gets 50 cents every time you use that word.
Every single time. So, 2018 copyright.
If you use the word intrisical, you should Venmo Veronica.
Please and thank you.
For 50 cents.
Give me that money. Oh, man. But yeah, so Jorge, you went someplace amazing. Where'd you go?
I went to jolly old London, England.
London. I have London. I want to go.
You need to go. It is a beautiful city. It's a beautiful country all over the place, but it's old world with the new built on top. It's very modern and still you could feel the history, and it's very clean.
Riding around on double-decker buses past like cobblestone roads.
I wanted to get a triple-decker bus, the night bus.
Night bus.
That would have been great.
Is that an option? Do they have that available?
No, but I did go to the Warner Brothers Harry Potter tour. Dressed up as a Slytherin. Yeah, it was me and my girlfriend. We were both dressed up as Slytherin, and we got a lot of attention from folks.
Oh, I'm sure.
They're like,
do they give you like special treatment at all if you like come in as like, these are clearly the super fans?
No, but not special treatment as much as like the people who work there really want to talk to you because they're real super fans.
Yeah.
So everything was like, I know Merlin was a Slytherin.
Right. Oh, man, I have to get some more of my Ravenclaw swag. Like I've already got a shirt coming on Amazon like right now. Like I'm still waiting on it. It says Ravenclaw like a university.
Oh, okay, cool.
Sort of like to sort of show like school
spirit.
School spirit, exactly.
School spirit for Ravenclaw. Yeah. I wore my Slytherin robe. I was showing my school spirit.
Showing your colors.
Showing my green. Yeah.
Showing your green.
Black and green. But it was London. So you remember like this time last year, I was getting all ready and set to go to London with my family, and as it goes in Hollywood, you book a trip out of town, you book a job.
I need to book more tickets.
Yeah, really. Me too at this point. But so we were supposed to go to London with my mother, my sister, and my sister's family, and I got the call that I booked this movie that was then called PMC. It's now called Take Point, and it's filming in South Korea, Seoul, South Korea. So I was in Seoul, South Korea for most of the summer of 2017.
That is cool.
Which was pretty awesome, right? Getting to soak up a different culture and whatnot.
Yeah, most of the Korean dramas I watch, they always want to go to Seoul.
Yeah, Seoul's a beautiful city. That's another place I highly recommend you going at some point.
It's on my list.
Yeah.
It's on my list.
So I had to postpone. Oh, by the way, that movie Take Point, that'll be out next December.
It's a Christmas movie. I mean, if Die Hard is a Christmas movie in this country, which I mean, it's one of the best Christmas movies ever, Take Point should also be.
Absolutely, because I mean, I'm playing a mercenary, and I'm shooting people and jumping from rooftops,
and yelling like a cowboy.
Yeah, yelling like a cowboy.
I mean, I'm trying to bring it back to Die Hard.
Oh,
bring it right back.
Yippee-ki-yay, Veronica. Yippee-ki-yay. Dork. Anyway, So rearranged the trip to come out, paid the extra money and changed the trip to come out Memorial Day week, right? When I figured Hollywood would be a little bit slower. So did that, and then in January met like the most amazing woman ever.
So cute.
Yeah, fell in love, and I already had the Airbnb set, and I was like, I'm going to be in London by myself for like 2 weeks without you. You want to go? You want to go? All you got to do is get a ticket. So she got a ticket.
That's cool.
And came with me, which was awesome. And God, what a trip did we have.
Yeah.
All right, so our first night, we did a pub crawl, because you have to.
Have to.
Yeah.
It's a requirement.
Yeah.
Pretty sure they kick you out of the country, and like without your passport if you don't do a pub crawl.
Yeah. We booked the pub crawl through Airbnb, and it was so much fun.
Oh, nice.
But by the end of but we got to like the last bar, and by the time we got to the last bar, we're like, we're so tired and jet lagged.
That was like the third bar, right?
Yeah, no, it was 5 bars altogether.
So it was like the third bar, right?
Why you gotta be like that? I'm not that old, for God's sakes.
It's a jet lag. I mean, that hits you hard. It hits you fast.
But that first night in a new city, you're like, oh, we gotta explore.
Adrenaline and then crash.
It was awesome. Our second day, we went to Camden Market. And I got some amazing boots and a couple of leather jackets that I'm very proud of. Went to the Globe Theater and saw As You Like It that night. And, for an actor, going to the Globe Theater is like going to church.
Mecca.
Yeah.
Take me to church.
Take me to church. Went to a very nice French restaurant called Les Mangeries for dinner after the Globe.
In England, or did y'all get like on the bullet and like go to France?
No, we stayed in London the entire time. We stayed in England the entire time. You don't want to do the whole take a day out and go to France. That's a whole separate trip.
I was going to say that's so cool that's an option.
Yeah, that's a whole separate trip. I've listened to other people who did the trip, and by the way, not for nothing, I love my family. I really do, but I'm kind of glad I didn't go with them. And the trip ended up the way that it was, because I would have been. I mean, I heard their schedule and I was like, you guys didn't do anything that I wanted to do. Yeah. And it sounded very exhausting. Day after the Globe, Warner Brothers store, Harry Potter, the whole Slytherin thing, told you about that already. That night, the Rolling Stones concert.
Stop it.
In Queen's Park.
Stop it.
Yeah, that's right. With Florence and the Machine opening.
Yes, please.
Yes, please, right? Saturday, Stonehenge, all day.
It really takes you all day to like enjoy Stonehenge?
You got to make a couple other stops. We stopped at the Roman baths.
Snapped.
And I actually got separated from the tour at the Roman baths. Because I was like rolling around. Heather went her way and I went my way for a second. I thought I was like hanging back, and I got to the tour bus like 3 minutes late, and the fuckers left without me. Yeah, it was like my side adventure. Heather was still on the tour bus with this one bunch, and I was on my side adventure.
This sounds like a classic Harry Potter scenario.
Yeah. So I had to find my way to Stonehenge, and then take a cab. They had another bus that was coming, and I could hop on that bus that was going straight to Stonehenge. Yeah. But I was on the special tour that was going to dinner beforehand, so I had to go to Stonehenge, hop in a cab from there, and take the cab from there down to the restaurant where everybody was to go back up to Stonehenge. And I was like, there were parts of me during it too where I was just like, what the fuck? They left me. And then I was like, she left me. Like, she left me. And then I was like, they probably wouldn't have left her off the bus. They didn't want to lose another person. Okay. And I was still like,
She's
okay.
safe.
She's safe. She's cool. Okay. I can handle myself. I've got a phone and credit cards, and I'm good. And I got there, and by the point that and I took care of the 3 major things that were really upsetting me. I was hungry, I was tired, and I was lonely. And I was angry. I was hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Halt. Whenever you're hangry, whenever you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, that's usually when you're really irritated, right? So while I was waiting for the bus, there was a pizzeria, had a nice Italian pizza. Oh, delicious.
Oh, stop
I was angry, had a glass of wine with my pizza.
Settle.
I was lonely, I talked to the bus driver and a few other people. Right? I was tired, I sat down on the bus and chilled. And then I got to Stonehenge.
What's up, y'all?
I was like, what's up, y'all? I got down to the restaurant. I was a little like, still kind of like,
Yeah.
But I got a beer in me, and I got to take. Let's just put it to you this way, guys. When you're really pissed off, have a glass of wine and a beer. You'll be fine. No.
In that order.
In that order.
Yeah.
Sat down, and everything was chill from there. So Sunday came along. What did we do Sunday? Oh, we did everything on Sunday. We went to Abbey Road. Oh. We went to the Doctor Who Blue Box. We went to Trafalgar Square and all this other stuff. But this podcast is really about what happened afterward.
More mystery, more intriguical.
I mean, my whole intention while I was there in London, England, was to appropriate myself some culture.
Good word, appropriate.
Yeah. I'm going to appropriate some culture.
It's like, here's a dime.
Here's a dime.
For the use of that dime word.
There you go. And, you know, being an actor, you know, I've studied a lot of martial arts in my lifetime, I thought, why not learn someone else's kung fu? So before I went to England, I was asking around for if anybody could recommend a really good acting class in London. And I heard about this guy.
So many. But,
you know, some of them were out of season, too. Or some of them, there were, but it's also like, not for nothing, it's also like Los Angeles. There's a lot of good ones and a lot of bad ones.
True story.
Right? A lot of good ones and a lot of bad ones out there, so you got to watch out where you're going to. So I got really high remarks about this one guy, Alex Marx, who teaches a Meisner class out there. And I was like, Meisner? I haven't done Meisner since
in a while.
College, it feels like. And we really only touched upon it then. Or you go to a class and they touch upon the repetition exercise here or there, but they don't really dive into what it is,
what
right?
It could be, yeah.
What it could be. So I said, great. So Heather and I signed up for Alex's Meisner workshop, and I had a chance to sit down with him and talk about his experience as an actor. He grew up in London. He's lived in New York. He's lived in Los Angeles. He's worked all around the world. He's a great teacher. You know, there's that old saying around town, they don't pay me to act, they pay me to wait. You've heard this one, right?
I've heard that one.
And then I started posting up on my Instagram about a year and a half ago, they don't pay me to act, they pay me to be ready.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is when I really like just got into the gym and got all, you know,
jacked. You can say it. It's okay.
Well, I humble brag, but
humble brag, but not humble.
But not that humble. So, you know, I started working out really well and keep myself reading scripts and studying and always being at the ready. And on our first day of class, Alex said something to the effect of, they pay us to be ready, people, so we must always be ready. And I was like, that's my dude. We're speaking the same language. So we really got to bro out about being acting coaches, you know.
So did you, like, at the end of the workshop or the class or whatever, just like approach him and be like, so I'm kind of like a fan of yours right now. I'm like, I'm a little fanboy. Like,
no, I set it up before I left. Before I left
that day.
Before I left Los Angeles. Before I left LA to go to London, because we were messaging each other back and forth, and I was like, this is a good opportunity.
Nice.
And maybe I could write this trip off on my taxes now.
Business trip. I totally needed to dress up like Slytherin and go to Harry Potter World for the business trip.
Well, I needed to take this acting class from a master teacher, and
so I get this
podcast recording. Yes, the interview is with Dumbledore, people.
Oh, stop
I interviewed Dumbledore.
That episode is only available for subscribers, by the way. So subscribe and leave a review.
Harry. No.
It's before Dumbledore died. Spoiler.
Ooh,
Spoiler.
Young Dumbledore. It's the new Jude Law Dumbledore.
We use the time turner.
No, I set up the meeting before I left. And we were going to do it one of the mornings before class. And it was just so much fun.
Yeah.
Getting to know a little bit more about Alex. Really talking about acting and the craft and the career. And I think the listeners who are really interested about the craft and career of acting will find this episode in particular very helpful and insightful and healthy. Also, we talk about, being healthy as an actor.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's really important to me about this podcast for people. Because I remember when I first came out here, I had some struggles.
Yeah.
I had some major league struggles, and I've mistakes. I've made a few.
Getting old school.
Yeah, but I don't even see them as mistakes anymore as much as I see them as learning opportunities, because where I am right now in my life, my craft, and my career, and I feel like I'm at the top of my game. So I feel like,
cool.
Yeah.
So then I guess that's a great intro. We could probably just dive right on into the episode.
I think I can just go ahead and just... so here's the episode, folks. Well, first, here's our theme music, then the episode.
Intrisical.
That's Venmo Veronica Roy at 50 cents for every time you use the word intrisical.
So, very close to Stonehenge.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
My girlfriend and I just visited Stonehenge.
Oh, no way.
Saturday. That was...
Oh, that's rad. Yeah, that's like 4 miles from my mum's house.
Wow.
Yeah. So I grew up amongst the Druids, and that was pretty fun. I did actually used to go to Solstice quite a lot.
Oh, really?
June 21st is the only time you're actually allowed to get to the stones. Mm-hmm. And that's super fun.
Private tour.
Oh,
so
nice. But did you get to touch them and shit?
No, they wouldn't let us touch them.
No.
The rules are don't touch them. And she and I were just like, that sounds more like a challenge.
Yeah. But you were within the circle.
We were within the circle.
Was that? Oh, I didn't
private tour.
Fancy.
We did the private tour. We
good for you.
If we were going to do this trip, we were going to do it right.
Sure.
All right. A quick little bit about me and my London tour.
Sure.
Really fantastic. So day one, pub crawl in central London. Day two, went to Camden Market.
Nice.
And I bought 300 jackets and 2 pairs of boots. So my girlfriend got a backpack and shoes and jewelry.
Nice.
And then the Globe Theatre, so as you like it.
Ooh.
God, it was like going to church for an actor, right? It was
Right.
like going to church. And then we had dinner at Les Margeries.
Okay. I don't know where that is.
It's a French restaurant.
I guess that.
French restaurant is very expensive.
Okay. Fancy.
Next day, Warner Brothers Harry Potter tour.
Nice.
Where we both dressed up as Slytherins.
Obviously.
We got a lot of smirks from people and a lot of applause from people. And then Rolling Stones concert with Florence and the Machine at the London Stadium.
What?
Yeah. And Saturday was Stonehenge.
Wow.
And Sunday we just pretty much walked around, went to the police box, the Doctor Who blue police box.
Cool, okay.
Took some pictures over there. Buckingham Palace, took some pictures over there. Abbey Road, took some pictures over there. And then Monday we had our first class with you. And then Heather had to fly back. Thank you, Lufthansa, for screwing my girlfriend up over.
Yeah, thanks, Lufthansa.
Yeah, that's another story for another day.
That's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Yeah, basically it's like over 250 pounds to change her flight because they told her that her flight was delayed, and then she showed up late. put you on blast, Alfonso. And then Tuesday, class yesterday with you, which was fun.
Sure.
And then I slept a good deal.
Yeah. It sounds like a pretty full-on little tour you've had there.
But back to you. So you grew up by Stonehenge.
Yes.
Did you have a lot of experience with theater in that area? Or?
In that area, not specifically. I don't come from a particularly artistic family. My grandmother was a painter, and so she taught me to paint when I was very young and encouraged sort of creativity in general. And my dad kind of works within a creative element of corporate world, doing branding and stuff like that. But generally, I didn't really go to the theatre very much as a kid. I did watch quite a lot of TV, and as soon as I got to old enough to be allowed to stay up after dinner, I used to watch a lot of movies on Sky Movies, because basically I lived in the middle of nowhere, right? Like literally, there's a field around our house, and there's 6 other houses in the village, and then in one direction there's Salisbury Plain, which is this giant open expanse of...
It's beautiful.
It's lovely for walking dogs, but there's not a huge amount going on other than that. So, I'd be climbing trees, playing, soccer with my brother in the garden, and putting my little sister in goal, and me and my older brother hammering balls at her and teaching her, resilience and that sort of thing, which she won't thank me for. And then just every night after dinner, I'd watch 2-3 movies down there.
What are some of your favorite movies from back then?
Oh, golly. I was really hammering a lot of films. The thing about Sky Movies was the 8 o'clock, 8:30 screening would be a recent blockbuster, right? So that would be me just absorbing what was happening in Hollywood. And then the, 9:30, 10 movie would be a little later. It would be 10 years ago that the movie was released. But then the late movie that started at 11:30 or whatever would always be these old things, proper old classic movies that people don't want to watch, right?
The old black and whites.
Old black and white, stuff like that. So I remember watching The Third Man for the first time. It's actually kind of it sounds a lot worse than it is, but my mum and stepdad had set us up with a TV room down in the basement of the house. It was our rec room where we could go down and play video games and trash it. And so I would be down in this basement after the rest of the house had gone to sleep, just with really loud films on, just absorbing what was going on. So I remember The Third Man. I remember watching Carlito's Way down there for the first time, which was amazing. I saw so much. Those are 2 that spring to mind. I remember... a few horror movies as well. The Exorcist I saw down there for the first time, which terrified the
How old were you when you saw The Exorcist?
Oh, how old was I? Maybe 14?
Oh, yeah.
And I was with some buddies, actually. They were staying at my house for the weekend or something, and I think we'd maybe smoked a joint, and we were down there and watching this movie and just freaking out. I don't really like horror movies. I remember watching Blair Witch down there as well. Also, same deal.
Really? Blair Witch did nothing for me.
Really?
I remember when Blair Witch came. Exorcist, yeah. My family, my brother and my little sister. It's our thing. The three of us. My older sister not so much, but the 3 of us were we would sit down and watch Nightmare on Elm Street together as children and be oh shit, he's crazy, Blair Witch did nothing for me.
I was alone in a basement in the middle of nowhere, and the film ends in a basement. And this basement isn't done up. It's got kind of old stone walls and it felt a little bit edgy down there,
Right.
And the stairs lead up to this little door law that's on a, you know, it's not a good situation to be watching scary movies by yourself. I mean, it was a real...
Especially in a basement, I would imagine.
The basement bit is what did it, you know? Like, I could watch movies upstairs in the normal, like, TV room in the house, but the basement area was not a place for horror.
So how did you go from a young boy, young pot-smoking teenager watching horror films in the basement of Salisbury to the theater, to becoming an actor?
Well, so I was always into theatre at school. So I was very lucky that I went to schools where, you know, there was an opportunity to engage in that, which isn't the case with a lot of schools, right? So I was at a private boarding school not far from where my mum lived, and, you know, they had amazing facilities because they're fee-paying schools and they have absurd charitable status, so they don't have to pay taxes. So all of the money just goes into, like, developing the school. So, like, you've got dope swimming pools, you've got a nice theatre, like... So it was enormously privileged that I had the opportunity to kind of get into acting at quite a young age.
You remember your first acting teacher?
My first proper acting teacher, I suppose, was Martin Butt. He was an English teacher at my prep school, which has a slightly different meaning in this country, but, like, basically between the age of 8 and 13, if you're a posh kid, you go to a prep school. And I remember that he was the first person who sort of talked about acting in a way that wasn't like, oh, stand there, say this, you know. It was more like, oh, but what's actually happening here, you know? What's the situation? And, you know, I don't think he was a trained actor himself, you know, very much an amateur guy, but he'd been to university for English literature, and I think he'd done a lot of student plays and stuff like that. So, you know, he had a real taste for it. So the first... I mean, I did, like, the nativity play when I was a really little kid. I think that was... I played a skunk, actually, in The Hungry Caterpillar. I think that was my first acting gig, aged, like, 3? Before I moved out of London, when I was still living in Chiswick.
You want to hear what my first acting gig was?
Sure.
It's terrible, actually, but I think I was in first or second grade, and I was Christopher Columbus.
Nice.
Not so much. Not so much when you're a Puerto Rican from New York, and then you actually learn the history, and you're like, you know, like at 7 years old, back, you know, we still celebrated Columbus Day.
Of course, yeah.
You know, that was in the 80s.
Yay, genocide.
Right?
Yeah.
And then later I went to, you know, after I went to a college preparatory school too, in high school, and I went to a Catholic school, and I remember learning the history firsthand there for the first time, and I went, oh my fucking God.
But aren't those the best parts where, like, you seem to be, like, the charming hero and you're actually the villain inside?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Rutger Hauer says that.
Oh, right.
Right? In an interview once, they asked him, how do you feel about always playing the villain? And he says, I have no idea what you're talking about. I never play the villain. In every story I play, I'm the good guy. Which I completely understand as well.
It's so important that, I think, you know, it's so easy to judge characters and say, oh, this guy's a misogynist asshole. As soon as you're thinking that way, you're going to really struggle to play the part, because you have to try and get inside it, right? You have to try and understand why he is the way that he is. And as you say, nobody gets up in the morning and says, today I will be evil. You know, everyone's doing it.
Except for maybe our president.
Yeah. Donald, I don't think is conscious of what's going on most of the time. I think there's a serious case of dementia going on there. I mean... You know, people, as you say, people think that they're doing the right thing. Even abhorrent people from history like Hitler was convinced that he was doing this for the good of his nation.
Right.
I mean, he was completely insane and a genocidal maniac. But he thought that he was doing the right thing. So if you were to play him, you have to try and get into that. You can't be like, oh, well, he's a fascist asshole.
Right.
Because then you're just going to be playing a shell. You're going to be playing a character.
Right. You're playing this value judgment or this prejudice that you've already placed on, or an idea.
Yeah, an idea.
An idea. Right.
You can't play ideas.
For instance, I have a student right now. Have you ever heard of this play? The Last Days of Judas Iscariot.
Yeah, sure.
By Stephen Adler.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I have two students in the room right now. One is playing Jesus, and the other one is doing the Jesus Judas scene. Mm-hmm. And their first time up, I said to the one playing Jesus, do some research and find his divinity at the same, find a little bit more of his divinity. And when he came back on the for his second time up, it was very much just that idea of divinity, and so I had to remind him Jesus was also a man. So you have to combine the man with the divinity and take up your right. Do you have any advice for something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's figuring out how when we talk about a character using abstract concept like adjectives, saying, okay, well this person is a divine person, this person is I don't know, like a sexy person, this person is a nerdy person, right? You can be like, okay, I'm a sexy person, here are my stilettos and my stockings and my push-up bra, or you can be like, okay, I'm a nerdy person, here are my spectacles with the wrap around and whatever, and but those are just ideas, right? There's stereotypes as to what that is, but it's trying to figure out when you're given a direction as an actor, and that's very often the way that teachers and directors will talk to you in this kind of shorthand. Okay, we need a bit more this, right?
Very result-oriented.
Result-orientated, which is fine, because that's your job to, I think, decode what the instruction you're being given and figure out a way to do it rather than try to be it. Because if somebody says to me, be more sexy, I mean, short of I don't know, swaggering more or I don't know, sexy is subjective, right? So how am I going to be more sexy? I am as sexy as I am, depending on the circumstances, right? So I'm not sexy when I'm sitting at home alone in my pants crying, right? It's not sexy. Do you know what I mean?
Depends on who you're with, I suppose.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Or what you're into.
But, maybe I'm a bit more sexy after a couple of beers and I'm at a bar and there's a girl I like and I'm flirting with her. So
you have a bit more confidence going on.
Right, and it depends on the circumstance and what it is that I'm doing. Now, you can't say Alex is sexy in this situation, Alex is not sexy in this situation. Or you can, but it's more about what it is that I'm doing, right? So in the bar scenario, I'm sexy because what I'm trying to do is charm this woman, is flirt with this woman, is seduce this woman.
Well, these are all actions.
These are all actions that I can play, right? So when a director says to me, okay, I need you to be more threatening, say, I can't suddenly turn, I can't pump my muscles more, I can't become 3 inches taller, but what I can do is behave differently.
Right.
So what is it to be threatening? It's to perform the verb of threatening someone. Well, what does that look like, right?
To intimidate.
Yeah, exactly.
To destroy, to command.
Yeah, to denigrate, to, insult, to belittle, to undermine. How can I find ways of getting into that behavior? And I think that's something that as actors we really need to be conscious of and really need to practice is the use of these behavioral tools. How it is that character gets what they want will be different to the way that I get what I want.
Now, I have a question about this as well. We work a lot. I think we work very similarly. And you said something on Monday, by the way, that I was like, oh my God, this is my guy. Because there's a famous quote back in Hollywood that says, they don't pay me to act, they pay me to wait. I changed that to my own quote, and this is what I say to my own students, is they don't pay me to act, they pay me to be ready. Right? So, and you said something to that effect on Monday about they pay us to be ready. I was like,
yes,
that's my dude. But anyway, going back to actions and action verbs, sometimes I feel like it can become a little staccato or almost robotic for people. Because, what we first learned in like freshman year of college is here is your thesaurus, here are your verbs, you take a number 2 pencil and you go line by line and write an action verb.
Right, so that's how like a director like Max Stafford Clark, who was a very famous British theatre director, who's actually, I believe, and I don't want to slander anyone, but I believe has been recently exposed as part of the Me Too movement as someone who was harassing actresses throughout his career. So fuck that guy. However, I sat in on a workshop with him in New York about 10 years ago, I suppose now, and he was doing exactly that. That was his process. He would go through the script with the actors involved in the scene and with the rest of the ensemble there, and they would literally go through line for line and assign a specific action to that specific line or even that specific phrase, right? So very, 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 very exacting and specific and rigid, right? And so I think that's where the issue comes in with the use of active verbs and assigning a specific verb to a specific line. I think that's not a bad idea to do as part of your homework, right? And do it on a daily basis and choose a different verb for the line today. However, when it comes to doing the actual acting thing, the actual performance, we can't be thinking, well, now I will impress Jorge with what I'm saying. Because how can we possibly do that? We don't do that in everyday life. I don't think, oh, now I'm going to try and be impressive. I might do. I'll probably fail. But I'm certainly not thinking while I'm doing the impressing, I'm trying to impress, I'm trying to impress, I'm trying to impress, I'm trying to impress. Because there's not space in my head to both be thinking about what I'm doing and doing it at the same time.
And be emotionally available or emotionally true to the character.
Right, so I think that process I have used in the past of assigning verbs to things when I've struggled to get to the bottom of what the scene is about as a tool of like exploring it, right? But as I say, when it comes to the performance, I think we have to remove all of that from our mind entirely. We have to leave all of our homework behind us and just be in the moment, right? Be present.
We still need to do the homework.
We have to do the homework, otherwise we're dog shit, right? And I remember reading something with Jessica Chastain a few years ago when she just kind of blasted into the scene, right? I think she had 7 movies come out in the space of a year. And
she was just cast in the sequel to the It movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Her, James McAvoy.
Oh, right. I love James.
God, what is his name? He's on that new HBO show, Barry. He was on SNL.
I know what you mean. Mike, I can see his face.
I can see his face. Well,
whatever, that guy.
That guy, yeah.
Bill Hader.
Bill Hader, yeah. So already that cast is going to be good.
Yeah, that sounds dope.
But as you were saying about Jessica.
Well, yeah, I just remember her saying this phrase in the context of the interview, like, it's all about doing the work when nobody's watching, right? I think so many actors are so ego-driven and they want to show up to class and have their teacher do it for them and be like, no, direct me, tell me how to do this. And it's like, it's nobody else's job to tell you how to do it, right? You have to show up on day one of the shoot or on day one of the rehearsal having a fucking really clear idea of what it is that you're doing. Yeah. Then a director can direct you, right? Yeah, shape what it is that you're doing and say, okay, I really like this idea. How about we refine it in this way? Or, actually, I don't like that idea. Can you do this now? And we have to be adaptable and we need to be ready for that.
That's the essence of collaboration.
It's the essence of collaboration, of course, and that's why we have directors, right? But if you've done none of that work and you're just showing up without your lines learned, without a quite complex conception of your character's psychology, without an idea of maybe a backstory that's not included in the play, filling in gaps with your imagination and allowing yourself to creatively engage with this gift you've been given, which frankly, most acting jobs are a gift to most actors because it's not easy out there, kids.
There's a lot more media out there. Thank you, Netflix.
Yeah.
But there's also also a hell of a lot more competition.
Of course.
Because once upon a time, acting, there were movie stars.
Right.
There are no more movie stars. There's people everybody's trying to get a job.
Right.
Nobody's getting paid $20 million anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I remember on that subject, I remember reading something again a few years ago where it was like, you know, all actors are waiting around, right? And all actors have to compete for jobs, and they don't get jobs that they want. So, you know, sometimes Brad loses out to Leo, and sometimes Leo loses out to Brad, and sometimes Matt gets it. Right. And, you know, you can kind of shuffle those guys around, but it's they lose jobs to each other, you know. They don't get the things that they really want. Right. They work hard on projects and then they go away, you know. It's the same deal being a quote-unquote movie star as it is being an actor. We're all in the same boat. You know, they've got a nicer boat. It's a yacht. Yeah.
Or an island or a castle somewhere.
Whatever it is, right? But we're all colleagues, right? We're all in the same river, trying to figure out how to do what we do the best that we can do it, and how to, you know, be seen by the people that we want to see us, to communicate what we want to communicate, to express what we want to express, and ultimately to tell stories. And I think that, you know, there's a danger with celebrity culture and the cult of fame and all of that stuff that we tend to put people who are famous into a different category, that they're somehow different to an actor working off Broadway in New York, or, you know, a student actor who's in his, you know, third class ever and has just got up and murdered a fucking monologue, you know. We're all in the same thing here, and we're all storytellers, and I think that there is a huge danger in saying, well, those people are the chosen few, those are the ones who've got it going on, because that mentality is so unhelpful to us, right, as actors who maybe want to be in that inner circle, who want the opportunity to work on amazing feature films with decent budgets, and so as soon as you start putting them in a different box to the box that you're in, I think you're inevitably going to stay in your box. But if you expand the size of your box to include Leo and Brad, and you're like, well, I'm not that different to them. Maybe they had different opportunities earlier on in life, and maybe in Matt's case, he wrote a dope script, or in Brad's case, he's super duper good looking, right? But so, you know, people get lucky at different times, and people start at different times. You know, my great mentor and teacher, although I never met the guy and he died before I knew who he was, Meisner, Sanford Meisner, you know, he said it takes 20 years to become an actor. Right. I started taking acting seriously when I was 15 years old. I'm now 34. Next year, I'm going to be an actor.
I'm on my 20th year.
Nice. Congratulations.
When I started taking it seriously, when I first moved out to LA, and I feel like I'm in one of the best places I've been in the past 10 years.
Well, I mean, it just doesn't... You don't get worse, right? Unless, I mean, maybe you could...
Well, it's not that well, speaking personally, one of the reasons that I am here in your class, it's not that I feel like I've gotten worse, but perhaps that I've plateaued.
Sure.
And that I'm not the actor that I could be. Right. There is something, and you know, and you can see that yesterday. I know that I have a very specific, like, perception mark. Right. Because I am the teacher, I am the mentor, I present professionalism and calmness and coolness, and so trying to get through, just be the student again, and be ready to learn and be challenged. That's what I've been starving for so long. So I'm so glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad to challenge you. I like challenging people. I like challenging myself as well. Yeah, I think, you know, talking of other controversial figures, there's a great line in, I think it's Manhattan, or no, Annie Hall it is, where Woody wrote that, you know, a relationship's like a shark. Unless it keeps moving, it dies. Right. And I think that's true of human spirit. As soon as we become too comfortable and too set in our ways and too conservative with a small c. No, I'm done now. I've got this. I'm 35. I've got a job. I've got a wife. I've got some kids. I cracked the code. I'm living the dream. I don't need to know anything else. I'm done. You know, the music that I listened to in college is the music I'm going to listen to. The movies that I liked in college are the movies that I'm going to like. Anything new that comes along, I'm going to spit out. And, you know, I think that is where human souls go to die, is that attitude. And I think that then shows up in you know, your mid-50s, and it's like, shit, I've been dead for 20 years. I might want to start living my life again. And that's called the midlife crisis, right?
Right. Well, I mean, once upon a time, we were expected to die by that time we were 35.
Totally.
You know,
right?
So it was a different story then. You were getting married at like 15.
And we're talking about like 100, 150 years ago that people were dying in their 30s, 40s, right? Not long ago. So yeah, this idea that we're now going to live to 100, 120, it's like, geez Louise, like, this is a few lifetimes for the human brain to deal with, you know? And I think that the idea that, you know, at a certain point we just go, okay, I'm full, like, I don't need to know anything more, is both supremely arrogant and also deeply sad. Because I think that, particularly as artists, I suppose, and maybe I am looking at this through an artistic lens and I'm being a bit of an asshole, but I think we have to continue to develop, we have to continue to grow, because I think that growth, spiritual, psychological, artistic, whatever, is the demonstration of the fact that we continue to love ourselves. And so this is something, I'm going to get into some hippie territory here. But this,
you're talking to the right guy.
This is
plenty of Grateful Dead concerts and Fish concerts. So, yeah.
Oh, right. Okay, good. Fishhead, hey? That's funny. Yeah, so I think that ultimately the purpose of theatre and film and drama in general is to educate, is to inform, is to entertain, is to give to the audience something about what it is to be a human being, right? Something that resonates on a universal level, which is why Shakespeare is the shit, right? Because he's like, okay, what am I going to write about today? Jealousy, and you get Othello, or ambition, and you get Macbeth, or indecision, and you get Hamlet, right? There's such very specific ideas that are at the heart of those things, and they explore something very specific within each one of us, right? And that's why those plays have endured for 500 years, or no, is that right? No, 350? I don't know. It's a number of years. Math is not my strong point.
But it's also why people are always, other shows or films are always using that
template. Right. And let's not forget, of course, that Shakespeare was ripping off templates from before.
Right.
So, you know, Romeo and Juliet is really just Pyramus and Thisbe, you know, from the Greek myth, and Hamlet was an already existing play about some Danish lunatic. It was much darker and much more bloody, but he, you know, and a lot of the comedies are just Italian.
Is that right?
Yeah, they're all from, what's his name? Boccaccio, I think.
Really?
Yeah, this Italian kind of lyrical poet from the previous century to Shakespeare. And a lot of those stories, he took them, and of course he adapted them, and he made them much more complex, and nobody could write character the way that he could, and assemble a dramatic form that... And here's what's so smart about what he's able to do and what great writers are able to do, I think, is that every single character within the piece speaks to the central concept. So within, you know, Hamlet, you have Laertes, right, who's like, I'm not thinking about anything, I'm acting, right? My dad's dead and my sister's dead and I'm gonna fucking kill you right now.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
Whereas with Hamlet, it's like, I think he kind of murdered my dad. I don't know about it.
To be or not to be.
And it's like, you know, the message of Hamlet is surely just fucking do it, man. Do it. Live. To be. Do not be. Not being is working. Yeah, is death.
And that's it's sitting at home on the couch you got nothing else to do.
Right.
Well, then make something to do.
Exactly.
Create something to do.
Create something. And I think that's so important for actors, is that it's very difficult when you're not working, and maybe when you're broke and you can't afford to go to class because you're working a shitty job that you had to take because you had to make rent, and the job doesn't pay you very well, and you've got to work 5 shifts a week just in order to get by, but now you're kind of locked into that job and blah 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 blah, and it's a nightmare. And that was certainly, we've all been there, right? Even the movie stars, guys, have all been there, unless Daddy was a producer, which is nice.
That's just,
or you were born into an extremely wealthy family and you've never had to really work.
That's just like the lottery.
Sure. And there are a number of people at the top of the game who won the lottery, right? A lot. So on the assumption that our listeners here didn't, we've probably all shared similar experiences of that at some point during our lives.
Oh, I remember my first 2-3 years in Los Angeles, working 2-3 jobs.
Right.
Just trying to get myself around. 3,000 miles away from my family because everyone was back in New York.
Sure.
So I adopted a dog.
Nice.
Because I was lonely. I had a shitty-ass roommate that left his sewing equipment around in the apartment. My dog swallowed a sewing needle, and then I had to pay $2,500 to have an operation on my dog's stomach. And I was just like, and money's flowing out, and not enough is coming in, and I don't know what I'm doing here, and why did I leave New York? I was doing leads in theater in New York, and now I'm here to do to get 2 lines on a co-star for a show. What am I doing? What am I doing? But I don't know what happened. I just stayed resilient.
Right.
Kept going.
Right. Well, I'm sure that part of what happened is you continued to create, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we got to this. I think is as an actor in that position, it's so important that you give yourself the opportunity to create. And that doesn't necessarily need to be in the acting department, right? Because acting is hard to do by yourself. I mean, sure, you can do To Be or Not to Be in the bathroom mirror, and you can cry, and it can be really great. But that's not acting, right? That's kind of a form of mental masturbation. And without an audience, it's easy to be great when no one else is around. It's much harder when people are looking at you and judging you.
I sing great in the shower.
Oh yeah, I murder it.
Or Alone in the Car.
Yeah, Nina Simone. I'm hitting those notes. Better believe it.
Frank Sinatra there.
Fly me to the moon. So I think that it's important, even if you're not getting the opportunity to act, and I would say get together with a friend, do scene work, read plays with buddies, invite them over for a cheap bottle of wine and read a play, But if you are in a new town and you don't know anyone, for example, then write a poem.
I was just
sketch something.
I did poetry slams.
Right.
I did them in New York. I did them for a couple of years when I was in LA. I'm actually itching to get back into it again.
Yeah, we don't really have that scene in the same way in the UK. It's sort of emerging, the slam variety. I mean, we have poetry readings, but those are less sort of intense.
Next time you're in LA, let me know, and I'll take you to a great place for poetry slams.
I would love that. So yeah, I think that's what it is. It's just about making sure that creative channel, it remains open. And this speaks to what we were talking about earlier about being ready, right? If you are working in a shitty job 5 days a week and you're exhausted, and suddenly, out of nowhere, your agent calls you and it's like, right, you've got an audition tomorrow. Here's the script. You've got 3 scenes to learn. You're going in to see Steven Soderbergh, and it's happening. This is it. Welcome to the big leagues, buddy. And you're like, oh, I haven't actually done any acting for a while, and I haven't been practicing learning lines, so I haven't kept my memory sharp, and now I've got 3 scenes to learn, and how the hell am I going to do it? And God, this is stressful, and maybe I should have a drink to take the edge off, and suddenly you're rolling around on the floor drunk, covered in your own puke and blood. and you've missed the audition, and it's a total nightmare because you weren't ready. You know, you weren't in a position whereby when somebody throws you a bone, you fucking chew it. Like, and you have to be ready to catch that bone when it gets thrown at you because you don't know where it's coming from. Right. It could come from being in a cafe and suddenly you're sitting next to a producer and the producer says, oh, you've got an amazing look. We're actually working on this project for this thing. How about we go down now and I introduce you to the rest of the team?
Will Smith story. Did you hear the Will Smith story on how he got Fresh Prince?
So rad.
Oh my God.
I know. I haven't heard that before.
It was insane. So, what is it?
Quincy Jones.
Yeah. At a party.
Yeah.
Quincy Jones goes up to him, and who was the producer that he was sitting on with me?
I can't remember his name. He's in. There's a rad new video, basically, isn't there?
Look up the story, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Will Smith, Fresh Prince.
Yeah. But it's a great story because basically he took action.
He took action. He decided to be, not to be.
Exactly.
And he nearly went the other way. Right?
Yeah.
He had that moment of crisis, that moment of indecision, and that's the moment that I think that we have every time we have to act. It's like, am I going to do this or am I going to half-ass this?
Right.
You know, am I going to give this 100% of my fucking fiber and my soul, and every muscle in my body is going to be fucking ready for this? Or am I going to walk on stage, go through the ropes, like say my lines, react in the way that I planned to react in my rehearsal, like, or when I was actioning my script, and I'll do the line the way that I intended to do the line, and it's dead, right? We need acting to be alive. We need it to be spontaneous. We need it to be in the moment. People need to be totally present to what is happening right now. Otherwise, it's not worth it.
Well, I think some of it also comes from fear. Of course, it all comes from fear of being disappointed. I mean,
right?
How many times? And just to backtrack a little bit,
sure.
Dealing with disappointment when you put all the work into it, and you this is a great fucking role. This is a great fucking script. I'm going to put all the work into it. I'm going to put all the work into it. You go and you go in the next day for the casting session, which you spend hours on these sides.
Yeah.
Paid a coach to coach you, and then fought traffic or took public transportation to get to the audition. Then waited in the waiting room for another 30 minutes to an hour, and then finally you go into the room for 3 minutes tops.
Yeah.
And then you never hear anything.
Right.
Or they bring you back over and over, which is what's happened to me. They bring you back over and over and over again. And they do the what do you call it? The chemistry read and the screen test or the dance audition, and the director's got his arm around you going, I really like you, I really like you, I really like you, and then and you go in for that last this is what happened to me like 2 years ago, right? And for something at the taper, and then you get it, and then a week goes by, and you're like, what's going on?
Crickets.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Crickets, and you get a call from your manager, and then and I broke down and cried.
Yeah.
I broke down and cried because it was like somebody breaking up with me.
It is.
And it's a difficult thing to deal with. How do you advise? I mean, I know from my own, I read a lot of self-help books. Sure. I've gone to therapy.
I would actually, joking aside, I would really advocate, I would advocate all people, but I would certainly advocate all actors have some sort of therapy, some sort of practice, whether, and don't get me wrong, a therapist is expensive, right? To go and see someone once a week, at least in the US. There are student therapists and you can get reduced rates. That's what I've done in the past, and it's been of mixed results, and sometimes, they're not very good and it doesn't really help you and whatever. But yeah, self-help books are useful. Listening to podcasts. I obsessively read articles about actors and writers and directors, and I watch interviews with them, and I watch documentaries about the making of movies, and I watch behind the scenes, and I recognize that everyone gets disappointed. Everyone gets rejected. over and over and over and over, and it's still happening when you're at the top of the game. It's happening over and over and over and over again, and it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal.
That's what gets me through as well, is like the Oprah Winfrey's of the world,
right?
Who was fired from her first job.
Totally.
You know,
J.K. Rowling was told 10 times that her book was garbage. And
how many failures did Thomas Edison have before creating the light bulb?
Right. And that's the 20-year thing, right? That's why Meisner is a G, because like you can't get good at this stuff really quickly. And here's the brutal thing, right? You do all of that work, and you go in for all of these auditions and whatever, and then sometimes you just suck. Like you are not good. And that was my experience for a long time, you know, because I didn't have the faith, right? And I think that is the answer to your question, how you deal with that brutality and that rejection. And, you know, a phone call would be nice. A 2-line email, hey, bud, I know it all seemed to be going really well, but we went in another direction. Best wishes, the director. You know, that would take him 30 seconds. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because the amount of times where you have that feeling, like, you're basically told you've got the job straight up to your face, you've got the job, kid, and then you don't have the job, and you're like, what the what?
Right.
You know, like...
Just what you said, and I thought that...
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and it's very, very difficult. But I think it's about having faith that if you continue to do the work, if you continue to show up to class, if you continue to work on short films and off Broadway, and you know, just in little
producing your own web series,
producing your own stuff,
films,
and that's, for me, that has been the complete game changer. Was
so you're a writer-director as well.
Yeah, so I've written and directed a few short films, and I'm currently working on my first feature project, which is apparently going very well. But I've been down the road where it's apparently going very well before, and I've learned over the years not to attach, right? And that's a lesson for life as well, right? As soon as we start needing something, we're in serious trouble. Yes. Right? As soon as yes, of course, we need food, we need water, a roof over our head would be nice.
Clothes on our back.
Yeah, you know.
The basic necessities.
The basic necessities, but once we're beyond that, as soon as we start coveting things, as soon as we're like, I need to buy that handbag, or that new TV, or that new car, we're setting ourselves up into this really dangerous area. I think as humans, we fall into all the time, these desires, right? And the attachment to these desires. And God, I really want that role. And if I don't get that role, like, my life's going to be over, and it's going to be a disaster, and blah, blah, blah. And we attach to it so strongly that when that inevitably happens, because we're putting so much pressure on ourselves that we fuck up the audition, that attachment is so negative. And I think this is true of life, right? The people that we love, we have a tendency to want to grasp on, to hold them close to us, like to not let them go. And that's a surefire way to make sure that they want to get the fuck out of the situation, right? Because nobody wants to be put in a cage, right? Everyone needs to be free to do whatever the fuck they want, whenever the fuck they want to do it. Unless that's murder and rape people, you know, like... but as long as it's not harming anyone else, I think that people should do whatever they want. They should fuck whoever they want. They should love whoever they want. They should worship whatever crazy thing that they've decided to worship.
So long as it's not, telling you to strap a bomb to your chest, sure.
Right, exactly. So yeah, along with the murder thing. Don't murder anyone, kids. But yeah, I think that... God, what the hell am I talking about?
We're talking about faith.
Love and attachment and faith.
Right.
So it's having the faith that this one wasn't for you. You know, that you didn't get it because you didn't work hard enough, maybe, because you were too short, or you were too tall, or you were too white, or too brown, or too...
Or maybe you reminded the director of his ex-girlfriend or boyfriend
Exactly. And that guy was an asshole. They project asshole onto you, and they're like, I don't want to work with that asshole. There is so much that is out of your control. Like, everything, essentially, as an actor is out of your control, and should be, when you're acting, certainly.
Except for your work.
Except for your work, how much work you put in, doing the work when nobody's watching, and having faith that if you continue to do that, that you will get what it is that you're seeking. And what it is that you're seeking may adapt, right? You may decide at the age of 15 that you want to be the biggest movie star in the world by the time you're 25, and guess what? Now you're 35 and you didn't do it. But hopefully somewhere along that road from the age of 15 you grew up a little bit and you realized that actually it wasn't about being rich and famous. That's not why you wanted to be an actor. You wanted to be an actor because you were watching Carlito's Way and you were like, holy shit, Al Pacino is a fucking artist. And you might not have thought about it in those terms at that time, but you're like, oh, what is this magic? You know, how is he able to do this thing that looks so effortless and yet conveys so much?
Because you can tell he loves his craft.
He loves it.
He doesn't love the celebrity.
He hates the celebrity.
He hates the celebrity and loves his craft.
I think
Chekhov has a great quote. Don't love yourself in the art. Love the art in
yourself. Yeah.
Love the art in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think it's having faith that the right thing will happen at the right time. And that doesn't, I'm not talking about like just kicking back and hoping for the phone to call, because that's not it. What it is working relentlessly when nobody's watching, writing your scripts, performing your monologues in front of your friends, you know, like whatever it is. Showing up to class, just continue to grind. Right. Because if you continue to grind and you continue to improve and you continue to meet people, then eventually you're going to find yourself in a position where somebody throws you a bone.
Right.
And you're going to catch it. Yeah. And you're going to run. And I don't know what you're doing with this bone. It's become a tool to hit things with, maybe.
I'm going to put it on a trophy case as well.
Yeah.
I caught that bone, and I'm going to do what a dog does, and I'm going to bury that bone, right? And I'm going to keep it for as mine.
Yes.
You know, and I'm going to hold on to it for, you know.
Yeah, and the next time I find myself feeling despondent and miserable and lacking in faith, I'm going to go and dig up that bone and go, remember when you caught that bone?
Exactly.
You can catch more bones.
This is exactly a similar conversation that I was just having with someone else, you know, about hope.
Yeah,
right? About maintaining that hope. And what I was trying to explain was you've worked. You've worked before.
Yes.
So there's no reason why you shouldn't work again.
Right.
You know, perhaps your representation has changed and you're not so very sure about them, but you're also producing your own work that you're very proud of. You keep yourself in class. You're extremely talented, right? So there's no reason to give up hope.
No.
And I don't know if you have any extra words of encouragement for that person.
I think, you know, we all fall into that trap, right, of feeling a bit hopeless and a bit despondent and a bit depressed, and worrying about where the next gig is coming from and how it's going to happen and what will happen when it does happen. And the only thing I can say is to remind yourself why it is that you do what you do. Why do you want to tell stories? What is it about life that you feel needs to be communicated? And then just go and do that in your life. Because, you know, we can't work all the time. It's impossible. Nobody can do that. But what we can do is live fulfilling lives. You know, we can enjoy spending time with friends and with family and with strangers, and we can be loving, and we can connect, and we can converse, and we can tell our own stories and tell jokes and have a beer or not, and go for a walk in the park and look at the sun.
Look at the sun. Make love.
Yeah, exactly. Life is not it's very easy as an actor to allow that to define who it is that you are. It is not who you are. You are a person who does acting for a living, right? Or doesn't. In many cases, who works another job in order to pay rent and whatever, but in their heart knows that they're an actor. Ultimately, I think you're an actor if you act, right? If you show up regularly and do the acting, then you are an actor. And that doesn't need to be professional. It doesn't need to be in front of a large group of people. It doesn't need to be anything. But as long as you're continuing to act, then you are an actor, right? And I think that it's about not defining yourself purely by that. It's something I heard Stephen Fry say. They would say he was introduced as like actor, writer, polymath, whatever. And he came out and said, well, I'm also just a person, who happens to act, who happens to write, who happens to do this and that and this and that. But that doesn't define who I am. That's just stuff that I do.
I feel like sometimes that's easy to forget in LA.
In Hollywood?
In Hollywood, because you are surrounded by actors.
Yeah.
So every conversation that you have is about being an actor.
Right.
And when you ask someone in LA, hey, how's it going? How you doing? The first words out of their mouth are, well, I just auditioned for this, and I just got off a set, or I just got off a set from that, and that. And
right.
I asked, how are you? Not what you're...
But then make friends with some painters, make friends with some landscape architects, make friends with some fucking, I don't know, LA isn't only actors, right? And I think there's a perception of that you go there and you're tripping over actors all day long. My experience of LA, yeah, sure, when I go to Soho House, and yeah, that's my experience, right? But I don't have to go to Soho House.
Right.
I can go and hang out with a tattoo artist in Echo Park, or do you know what I mean? I don't have to engage in that world all of the time. I know you live in Hollywood.
No, in Hollywood, and I teach.
Right.
So it's,
it's
I
hard.
find other ways out. Trust me.
And your partner is also an actor, right?
Yeah.
So, it is hard to not allow yourself to be defined in those ways, but I think it is really, really important that we remember that above all, we're human beings living lives, and we need to give those lives meaning so that we're not relying on our career to give us the definition of who we are and what value we hold in the world.
Is it Stella Adler that said, if you want to work on your acting, work on your life?
I don't know, but if it was, then she's a very smart lady. And I honestly think it's the same thing. At this point, I've got to the point where acting and living are the same thing. It's about showing up, it's about being present, it's about telling the truth, it's about not trying to hide how you feel about things, and it's about presenting the best that you can present today. Doing the best that you can do today. And it might be a shitty day, and you might do a shitty job, both as an actor or as a person. But there's tomorrow, or the next second. There's right now, all the time.
Moment to moment.
Moment to moment. And if you live in the now all of the time, then you have choices.
Yeah.
Most of us live our lives in a fairly unconscious manner, and we continue to follow the habitual thought patterns that were taught to us as infants by, our caregivers, and we tell ourselves that we're no good and we're not good enough to be the person that we want to be, and it's bullshit. And we have an opportunity every moment to challenge those views and those perceptions of ourselves, because they were things that were given to us and they are not true of us right now. Right now.
These are agreements that we have made. Have you ever read the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz?
No. I've heard of it, though.
It's a fantastic book. I was actually, Anna, one of the other students, was telling her about it.
Cool.
But it talks about that first agreement that we made when we were children.
Right.
Like, for example, let's say you're 10 years old and you're in the back seat of the car with your family on a road trip, and if your favorite song comes on the radio and you start singing along with the song, and either your brother, your sister, your mother, your father says, "Stop singing, you're hurting my ears."
Right.
Well, all of a sudden, it's 15 years later, you're 25 at a karaoke a bar with your friends going, I'm not going up there.
Yeah.
No, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Because this is an agreement that you made when you were 10 years old.
Right. And that's tragic, and parents need to do better.
Yeah.
Why don't you just love your children? Is it so hard? Maybe don't have children if you're not going to love them. Maybe consider that as an option. There's nearly 9 billion people on the planet. No, it's nearly 8 billion. It's nearly 8 billion. But still rising, although we're slowing down, which is the good news. For the first time in human history, the population acceleration is starting to slow down. So we're at a critical moment in the history of humanity and in the history of the entire planet, whereby we need to wake up to the fact that there are going to be many more billions of us, and we need to either top out at like 12 or top out at 15. If we top out at 15, we're all going to die in a fiery furnace of hell.
Yeah.
If we top out at 12, we can make this work.
Right.
But in order to make it work, we need to fundamentally shift the way that we behave as human beings, and we need to get rid of these ideas of competition and of separation and of nationhood and of culture and of race, and we need to recognize that we're all the same, that we all live on the same little rock that's hurtling through space, and unless we start cooperating and collaborating and loving each other, we're fucked.
Agreed.
And we have to be the people that do that, you know. I don't want to put too much pressure on you guys, but like, storytelling is how it's done.
Right.
How did Christianity take over half the world? Good stories.
Good stories.
How did capitalism take over the entire world? A good story, right? The American Dream, great story. You know, bullshit, but a good story. And if you tell people a good story, then you can make them feel something. And if you can make them feel something, then you can change the way that they think. And if you can change the way that they think, then you can change the way that they behave. And if you can do that as an artist and as a storyteller and as a photographer, as a painter, as a doctor, as anything, right? If you can change the way that people behave and allow them to behave in a way that is both more beneficial to them and to everyone around them, then fucking hell, you nailed it, right? If you can make a small impact just to one person in the world, you know, one person reads your poem and goes, Jesus Christ, I miss my mum, I'm going to give her a call.
Right.
You've done it.
Oh.
Tick. Massive tick.
Right. I love films and TV shows that like make me go, I gotta call my dad.
Right.
Like there was this great American show called This Is Us. I don't know if you guys have gotten it out here. Every episode you're guaranteed to cry.
Right.
Every single episode. I had to stop watching after 6 episodes because I'm sitting alone in my living room watching this show, getting all choked up because my family's on the other side of the country and going, I can't. This is torture. I can't watch this anymore.
Yeah. Sometimes crying's necessary, man. You know, I try to cry once a day because then I know that I'm ready. Right? I know that channel's open. You know. So I tend to try and do little, slightly masturbatory emotional preparations on a daily basis. So I place myself in an imaginary circumstance whereby I can imagine myself getting, something that I really want. And I can imagine how happy that makes me. And then I imagine something that I really love being taken away from me. And I imagine how sad that would make me. And I allow myself to go into these little places to just touch in with an imaginary landscape that nobody else needs to know about or understand, but just I touch in with it and I'm like, okay, yeah, I have an ability to cry today. I have an ability to be full of fucking vengeful wrath today, right? And all I need to do is just check in. And it takes me 30 seconds, just like, yeah, that's there. Because then if somebody throws me a bone, I've got my palate. I'm ready. I've got what I need to have in order to do what I need to do. And so I think that's a useful practice.
I love that. I'm going to steal that because that's something I feel like I have not. Because again, just being the student, right?
Sure, yeah.
I've been very protected.
Yeah.
From all that.
Yeah.
But if my mind goes there, I'm like, no, let's not go there.
Right.
It hasn't. But I feel like it has. That's where the plateau is. It's 11:11.
Okay.
Make a wish.
Nice.
Class is about to start real soon, but I wanted to play one quick game with you, if you don't mind. I'm going to set the timer for 90 seconds. I'm going to ask you some questions, and you just answer at first thing comes to mind.
Okay. Yes. I hope I don't reveal the fact my dark, twisted psyche.
Okay, here we go. What is the most useful thing your mom or your dad has taught you?
My mum taught me how to make other people, both of my parents, I think, taught me how to make other people feel at ease.
What's the most important file on your computer?
My screenplay, Miraculous Isabella.
What game do you dominate when you play it?
Monopoly.
True or false? Kangaroos have 3 vaginas.
False?
True.
Really? Wow.
True or false? Oreo cookies have existed longer than chocolate chip cookies.
I mean, that sounds unlikely, so I'm going to say true.
True. Let's find out. What is the most embarrassing thing you have ever worn?
Ooh, good question. The most embarrassing thing, well, this speaks to childhood trauma, right? I went on holiday with another family when I was a little kid, and the other family were all girls, and I remember one day I dressed up as Michael Jackson, and I had well, that's not the embarrassing bit. I mean, none of it's embarrassing. It's all just early acting, right? But, you know, I thought I was Michael Jackson. I had this little outfit, and I had a Walkman that had a speaker on it. And you remember those old, like, Walkmans that you could actually boombox with as well? And, like, I was given bad. Somebody gave me Michael Jackson's bad when I was, like, 5 or 6 years old. Anyway, so one day I was dancing around as Michael Jackson, and then the next day I dressed up in a dress, because I was like, yeah, these girls are wearing dresses. Like, this seems like a cool thing. It's hot. Yeah. I don't want to wear short pants. Like, I'm going to wear a dress. And I remember my stepdad being like, this is not cool. This is absolutely not acceptable. And so I guess maybe that was more shameful than embarrassing. But, yeah. Now, of course, you know, we recognize the gender's bullshit. Or at least woke people do. But yeah, I think that was probably the most embarrassing thing.
I'm sure it was adorable, though.
Oh, I was a really cute little girl.
I'm sure. Well, thank you, Alex. I'm looking forward to the next 2 days of class. I hope everybody has enjoyed this podcast. And do you have a Twitter or
yeah, my Twitter is Alex Marx Actor, which is a little specific nowadays. And my Instagram is alex.d for danger.marx, M-A-R-X.
All right. And also you have a Facebook group, right? That's how I found you.
Yeah, so I have a Meisner teaching page, and I have a Facebook page for me as an artist as well.
If you guys are ever in London and you're looking to take a class, I'm telling you, look up Alex Marx. All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening, you guys. Make sure to subscribe, comment, and share on iTunes. If you leave a review, you get a shout out. Make sure you also like, comment, and follow us at HUAWLA Podcast on all social media platforms.
I'm Jorge Payo, and you can follow me at @TheLJorge on all social media.
And I'm Veronica. You can also follow me at Veronica_Roy on all social media.
Stay groovy, HUAWLA koalas.
Koalas.
Oh, they're so cute with a little eucalyptus. I love HUAWLA koalas.
Little stuffy. Such a good song.
Thanks, Sammy.